You know, if you're on a farm, you go up to a farmer, I can tell him. Maybe an ayah, ishab, Americana shigel. I want eggs, we have American money for you. And I always say, but you'll pay me. I said, sure. Sometimes we did. A guy would come by with 4 eggs, and somebody else would follow him and come back with 25 eggs for us. The only food we had was in a can. It was disgusting. So eggs made disgusting taste a lot better. I'm trying to give you an idea of my relationship with my fellow soldiers. Baby soldier, not their friend, they didn't know me, I didn't know them. But that business of being able to talk German, to talk to Germans through my Yiddish became very, very important. Because to skip over a lot of time. Of course, unbeknownst to me, because I'm a baby soldier, my colonel was ordered to go in with a party to escort the 42nd Infantry Division into Dachau. I never heard that. I was just doing my business. My friends, we didn't know what was going on, but we just knew that we were going to join the 42nd. We pack up, we get in, we joined the 42nd, and it was nothing. For a couple of days, we're sitting and eating and talking, and then behind the scenes, what I didn't know, Dachau was in the first German concentration camp. It was infamous, it was horrible, and everybody knew it. It was filled with Jewish prisoners, a very heavy Jewish population. They needed somebody to talk to the Jews. How to say to them, you may not eat, it'll kill you. And it did. So they took a Hershey bar, we had to tell them, we had to give them instructions for exiting the camp, for whatever it was. I didn't know what it was. And I didn't know this was going on. All I knew was I was in the camp, I was speaking Yiddish to some of them. Now what happened was, my colonel knew the situation we were entering. The average soldier didn't. We didn't know what would be. My colonel knew he had to get a Jew to accompany him, so he called my captain, who was Jewish. His name was Ralph Floria, and that don't sound like Schwartz. So nobody could figure out that Ralph. What happened was, he was a Spanish Jew. He did not speak Yiddish. And once he got into the camp and found out what they wanted him for, he knew that the mistake was being made. But he remembered that he had a Jewish kid that was getting beds from the Germans. So somebody came back from me. I don't even remember who it was. I got into the Jeep, we drove there, and he took me to that house. The camp had not been entered yet by American forces, maybe 1 or 2, but not by a bunch. When I got there, because I was going to be interpreter and he wanted to introduce me, my captain pulled me up to the gates of Dachau. I could look through it and I saw American officers speaking with German officers. They were making their deal on how the camp would be. You know, you had thousands of people. The Germans did everything they could to stall. I want to go back to something. The night before this is happening, the night before we ended Dachau, we were in Munich. I was machine gunner. I heard machine gun fire, and I could identify it as German machine gun fire. And I went to my captain, and he said, I don't know who the hell that is. And it was big talk, it was big stuff in the neighborhood, you know. Like, what's going on? Why are they 3 miles away and we hear their fire? What's happening? And we didn't know until later on. But anyway, now I'm standing in line with a bunch of other guys, my gun slung over my shoulder. I had a gun on my hip, 45 caliber, because a rifle is like worthless indoors. You walk around with a rifle, you're going to hit something. With a pistol, you got more room. When we were in Germany, passing through and we had to clean out a house, every now and then you would hear, on our radio, you would hear, this is before entering Dachau, every now and then on our radio we would hear, boom, 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 Beethoven's Fifth, boom, 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 das ist Radio Luxemburg. Das kommt amerikanische Soldaten in 15 Minuten. Boom, 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 boom. This is Radio Luxembourg, the Allied Military Government Broadcasting Company. In 15 minutes, American soldiers will arrive in your town. Boom, 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 boom. In 14 minutes, American soldiers will arrive. And they kept drumming that in. All weapons are to be laid out in front of the entrance to your building. Anybody caught with a weapon will be shot. Boom, 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 boom. White flags must be displayed. Boom, 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 boom. That alone was an experience and a half. By the time the troops got after all that boom, 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 we came in and it was a very docile group that let us come into their town. Funny, there was no fighting in town, or contact was trying to stop us from coming in. But once we were in, it's like the authority of the German army was transferred to us. They knew how to follow orders. It was under those circumstances, right after we heard the machine gun fire, it was under those circumstances that I was picked up and told to get into the camp. They'll take you in. So 4 of us were brought into the camp. And we were taken to our group that we had to enter the camp with, where the officers already had instructions. We didn't know. And I saw that scene of American officers talking to German officers. And by the way, it was an unbelievable scene. This wasn't movies. This wasn't movies with Nazi gear. This was a Nazi son of a bitch standing in front of me, and I had a gun, and I was aware of it, and everybody had guns, and this is like a movie coming to life. We stood there. You know, as I'm talking to you, I'm still afraid to walk into that camp. I'll tell you part of the story I got to tell you about that. Finally, one of our officers, they opened the gates of Dachau, and we walked in. As a carpet of dead. There had been a lot of shooting. Those that got hit were still bleeding, still groaning, and still calling us. Because just walking into a courtyard, there was a wall and bodies stacked up against it. I don't know how many thick, but I know an officer looked at that wall of bodies. He said to me, "How high is that?" I raised my hand. I figured, "About 7 feet, sir." Just wrote it down. I can see a wall now. When I was teaching, I walked into schools who had a wall painted up 7 feet. I could feel it in my bones. Because that was 7 feet of dead people laying, still bleeding some. It slopes down dead bodies cannot sustain themselves evidently because they change their movement. And it slowed down. And on the bottom was a fully clad German officer of some high rank because he was dressed like he was going to a party. Top uniform. I couldn't stand looking at him laying on top of my people. I grabbed him by his belt. I pulled him off the stack just so that he shouldn't contact him. Don't ask me why, but I did. We were all doing too much. Now I have to rely on spot memories. I remember seeing a woman, an old lady. She may have been a young lady, but she looked like an old lady to me. She was screaming at me. I went to put my hand on her head. Soldier, now I could talk to her. I said, soldier, don't worry, Mama. I'm an American soldier. I'm a Jewish boy. And when I went to raise my hand to pat her head, she pulled away and started to scream in fear. Wow. Whoever screaming was me. And I started speaking to her. And she reached into her garment and she pulled out a picture and she started to scream, "Where is my family?" I have a picture of her family here. I'll find it in a little bit. In the camp, I'll find the picture in a little while. That's a moment that I'll never forget, and I always wondered, why is it so clear to me? Give me a half hour, I'll figure it out. I can remember the color of her hair like it was yesterday. I can remember the little flecks in her hair. I can remember her screaming at me. And then she gave me the picture of her family. Both in my kids, both in my family, and screaming at me. And I remember then that she didn't know what she didn't expect any response from me. There was a fence a few feet away, a metal fence. And it had been, before we got there, it had been electrically charged. And that separated one end of the camp from the other. But as I was talking to her, they broke that fence down because it was no longer charged. And a swarm of people came. And from this point on, the whole place was elbowing your way through a swarm of people. A swarm of people came and broke me from her, and it left me holding her picture of her family. And I remember that, and I can't forget it as I talk to you. I remember her telling me that they're stealing her straw. She showed me where she slept, which was on a board, 4 high. And she started like a Yiddish mama putting the straw together so neatly so she could sleep on it. Nothing to sleep on it, but I can hold all the straw in my hands. That's all that was left. Imagine people fighting over. They had. The next scene I remember is we got into a room that had a long alleyway, and it had two other rooms that narrowed into that alleyway. It was really like one big keyhole. On that side, there was garments laying separated, coats, pants, shoes. On that side, there were bodies, naked, stacked all the way up, one on top of the other, like a Korean grocery store that sells rice, and they got the bags all stacked up. That's what they were like, all stacked up and dead. A whole room full of dead people. What caught my eye forever was a woman holding a younger girl by her hand. The woman was laying on a pile. The girl was hanging over. The woman still had her hand. And that got me. Because what did that mother, and they were naked. That whole pile was naked. Their clothing was being separated for reuse. That woman holding the younger girl's hand, it made me think then, and always make me think, what did that woman have to say to that young girl? Don't worry, sweetheart. Who wants to look at you? Take a look at somebody else. Don't worry, darling. Mama's getting undressed too. What do you say in a situation like that? That's what nobody understands about Dachau or any concentrate, that complete and total disregard of human sensation. Total. Right down to something as basic as that. That changed me. I was going to get in. Did much. The next thing I know, and by the way, there was a box of wire gold glasses. The glasses were this big, children's glasses. A whole box of the glasses laying there because that wire was gold. They didn't waste anything to be able to take the kid, take the glasses, kill him next. When I went into the same school where I told you the wolf was, when I went into that school to teach, if a kid came in wearing gold wire rimmed glasses, I had to walk out and ask somebody to take over my class. It's just, it's the unbelievable has come true. Now, the next thing I hear is the northeast section of the camp. Northeast, what do I know? I'm a Brooklyn boy. Up the corner, down the block, around the corner, by the grocery store, the candy store. Northeast. But I saw the crowd going. I went after them. And as we were going along, I kept hearing people saying, the ovens, the ovens. I got there. There were ovens about this high. And there was a capo. A capo is a Jewish man who works for the Nazis. Okay? And he's hated in the camp by the Nazis and by his fellow prisoners. By the time I got there, he was trying to explain to people who were all mad at him he was trying to explain his end of the story. When he saw that I was speaking Yiddish, he ran over to me and he said, Zugze, tell them. And I asked him, what should I tell him? He said, Wemen habe ich geschaden? Who did I hurt? They came here, they were dead. I put them into the oven. I didn't hurt anybody. I saved my life, that's a holy thing. And then he said, he was wearing a gown, similar to the things they give you in a hospital, except this was dirty. He said, for everybody that I put into that oven, for every soul, I made a correct prayer. And he reached into his garment and he took this out. It was hanging on a string. He took it out and he said, I saved this. People saved what to put in it. And every time I put somebody in the oven, I say the prayer for the dead and a prayer for the dying. I'm a rabbi. He gave me that. I've been trying to find the rightful owner of it, write ads in the magazines, but again, I'm lost in a long. But anyway, that's one of the things I wanted to try hard not to forget, because that also tells you what was going on. Now again, I heard somebody saying this end of the camp or that end of the camp, and I went out, I followed them. Remember I told you, there were 36 boxcars behind the camp, or behind the barrack of the camp that I was in. You know how big a boxcar is? Maybe from there to here, or maybe more. A lot of people. There were 40 boxcars that were being sent from another camp to Dachau, because the other camp didn't want to get caught with that many people, who were roping up. They were being sent to Dachau. They had been in those boxcars for 2 weeks. No food, no toileting, no medication, just locked in there. I didn't know that. All I knew was that there were boxcars laying there, and then we saw there was blood oozing out of them, puddles of blood like a river. What happened, that machine gunning that I heard the night before, they set up a machine gun, and they machine gunned 36 boxcars loaded with people. And then they left them there. And then we came in and we found them. That was that. I went crazy. I was digging in that pile of humans. I was touching and moving and handling death and crying over them, looking for something alive. There's nothing alive. Nobody was alive. Nobody. You got your head in a boxcar, and there's feet and hands and shoes, and it's all dead. You cannot be in a room full of dead people without hearing them talk. You heard it. Something happens to your head. And then there's nothing you can do. Everything you want to do, you can call your captain, get anything you want. You don't know what the hell to do. There they were. We left that. I remember German kids in Nazi uniforms showering me off. Somebody told them to finish up. What happened was the German soldiers put on prisoners' garb, and they went into the prisoners' ranks. I'll tell you a little about that later if I remember. The kids, 14, 15, were wearing the uniforms of guys who were 6 foot tall, so it was a silly looking thing. But they were the ones that were sent over to clean off the human debris from my clothing. They were showering me and cleaning me off. And I tell you, I don't know how I remember that. It's kind of a different memory system. I see. Anyway, that was Dachau. I can't, I'm done. So that was Dachau, and I hope you get a different picture of it. And understand that this is 75 years later, and it's still very, very, very significant. Hold on. I was wandering around the camp, and I see a guy standing there, German uniform, this on the side. I pulled out my gun. I said, "Keine Gewehr, no weapons." He took that off, it was on this belt, and this belt showed a spade for digging and a swastika. I'll have it here, you'll be able to look it over. It showed a spade for digging and a swastika, like it was a farming camp. Why else would you need a spade? I said to him, "Was hast du abgetan?" I could tell immediately he was a high-ranking officer. He was I have his insignia here somewhere. He was a high-ranking officer, and he figured he had a kid, you know, a baby soldier, so he's used to giving orders and getting away with stuff. I said to him, "What did you do? What did you people do?" He said to me, "I'll shoot, they're all Jews." That was his joke. I said, "Oh, me too." Yeah. My mother had sent me a Jewish star and took it out, and I had one shove it through his eyeball. He carried this knife. Not make believe. It's a very sharp point. He loved to slice women's asses and their breasts. That was his big joke. "Oh, don't be afraid. Come and see me." That was his joke. How do I know it? Because we had to describe what other prisoners told us to the people who came into the camp to make record of it. So this was mentioned at the Nuremberg trials later on. I think I'm done. Okay? Thank you for listening. Or something else I want to take. I knew there was something. When I wanted to go into service and my mother said no, I said, "Come on, Mom, somebody got to finish this war." I used to kid her, you know, a teenage son and a mom. "Somebody got to finish this war, Mom. Let me go over there and take care of this. I'll come on. I'll bring you a set of teacups from Hitler's table." And she said, "Are you crazy?" When we were in Dachau, when we were in Munich, and I was wearing my helmet like a good soldier with my rifle, we heard that 101st Airborne had taken Berchtesgaden. Berchtesgaden was Hitler's home. You see it in the papers all the time. But I never saw Berchtesgaden. What kind of war is this that they're hiding something? So we got somebody else. I got one of the German PWs who knew the territory to drive a Jeep.